see why not.
Thank you.
Now, has anybody seen the paper?
What, is everybody going nuts around here?
One of them was the biggest teen idol on the planet, sold over 25 million records. Screamed at by 20,000 girls a night at Madison Square Garden, and died at 67 inches of Florida hospital, whispering the words, "so much wasted time," to his daughter. Another one walked away from Hollywood at 17, spent the next 40 years quietly managing a small office supply store in a Nevada desert town, and was dead at 52 from a heart condition nobody around her knew she had. Here's what really happened to the cast of the Partridge Family. Number 1, Shirley Jones as Shirley Partridge. The matriarch, the Oscar winner who held it all together. Shirley Jones was already an Oscar winner when she stepped onto the set of The Partridge Family in 1970. 9 years earlier, she had won Best Supporting Actress for Elmer Gantry, playing a vengeful prostitute opposite Burt Lancaster, a role she had taken deliberately to break the wholesome image built across Oklahoma.
Speaking is one of the dummies. May I make a suggestion?
Mom, I wasn't including you.
Carousel and The Music Man. She was 36 years old. She said yes to the new ABC sitcom because the show was about a working mother. She also said yes because her teenage stepson, David Cassidy, had just been cast as her on-screen oldest child. The producers had no idea the two were related. David was the son of her first husband, the Broadway actor Jack Cassidy. The Partridge Family bus became, in effect, a family reunion that wasn't supposed to happen. Off camera, Jones's actual life was darker than anything the show acknowledged. Her marriage to Jack Cassidy had been chaotic. He was a violent alcoholic and untreated bipolar man whose career was sliding while hers climbed. They divorced in 1974. In December 1976, 2 years after the Partridge Family ended, Jack Cassidy fell asleep, smoking in his West Hollywood penthouse, and burned to death in the fire that followed. He was 49 years old. David was 26. Jones had married the talent manager Marty Ingalls by then in 1977 and would stay married to him for 38 years until his death in 2015.
Sure, it's for real. I mean, any pretty girl can enter.
Yeah, and this year it's a big deal. TV coverage and everything.
Edit Q. Jones holding her Oscar for Elmer Gantry at the 33rd Academy Awards in April 1961, 27 years old, versus Pry. Jones in 2013 on The Today Show, holding her best-selling memoir, 79 years old, talking openly for the first time about the violence in her first marriage. In 2013, at 79, she published a startlingly candid memoir that finally told the truth about her marriage to Jack Cassidy, the affairs, the violence, and a sex life she discussed in detail that shocked readers who had only ever thought of her as Shirley Partridge. It was a bestseller. 4 years later, in November 2017, she buried her stepson David. He was 67, she was 83. Her 3 biological sons with Jack Cassidy, Sean, Patrick, and Ryan had all built quiet, sustainable careers. Sean was a teen idol in his own right in the late 1970s. None of them ever needed rescuing the way David had. In 2026, Shirley Jones is 91 years old. She has been a working performer for over 70 years. Her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame was placed there in 1956. The Oscar she won at 27 is still on her mantelpiece. She is the last living adult lead of the Partridge Family, the only cast member who carried real prestige onto the bus, and the only one who carried it back off, intact 55 years later. The matriarch outlived almost everyone she loved, and she is still here. Number 2, Susan Dey as Laurie Partridge. Susan Dey as Laurie Partridge in her 1971 psychedelic wardrobe, 18 years old, blonde, on the cover of Tiger Beat vs. A paparazzi photograph of Dey leaving a New York restaurant in 2005, brunette in sunglasses, deliberately unrecognizable. Susan Dey was a 17-year-old model from upstate New York with no acting experience when she was cast as Laurie Partridge. She had never appeared in a film, a play, or a commercial. She read for the role because her agent told her to. The producers took one look at the cheekbones and the long blonde hair and built the show's teenage daughter around her. By the second season, she was on every teen magazine cover in America Tiger beat, 16, 17, tied with her on-screen brother David Cassidy as the show's primary marketing engine.
I think that the Homecoming Queen contest is a wonderful opportunity for any young woman.
What the magazines did not report was that Day developed anorexia during the run of the show. She has discussed it openly in the decades since the daily weigh-ins, the calorie restrictions, the body she was being asked to maintain at 18 years old. She has called those 4 years some of the most psychologically punishing of her life. When the Partridge Family ended in 1974, she did something almost nobody in her position did. She walked. No teen idol singles, no nightclub residencies, no Vegas. She took quiet roles in films almost nobody saw, married a television producer named Lance Rubin in 1972, divorced him in 1980, and waited. The wait paid off in 1986, when Stephen Bochco cast her as Deputy District Attorney Grace Van Owen on L.A. Law. Across 6 seasons, she received 6 Golden Globe nominations, won one in 1988, and picked up 3 Emmy nominations. Grace Van Owen had nothing in common with Laurie Partridge except the actress underneath them, which was the entire point. Number 3, Danny Bonaduce as Danny Partridge. Danny Bonaduce was 11 years old when he was cast as Danny Partridge, the wise-cracking red-headed middle son. He had been working in the industry since age 5, Mayberry RFD, The Jonathan Winter Show, commercials, and his father, Joseph Bonaduce, was an established television writer with credits on The Dick Van Dyke Show. What the audience never saw was that Joseph Bonaduce was a violent man. Danny has spoken at length about being beaten, choked, and terrorized at home throughout the 4-year run of the Partridge Family. The wisecracking one-year-old on the bus was, off the set, a child surviving a household nobody intervened in. When the show ended in 1974, he was 15 and unemployed. His late teens and 20s became a public freefall. Cocaine addiction, multiple bankruptcies. A widely reported 1,985 stretch when he was sleeping in his car in the parking lot of a Hollywood radio station that had just fired him. He weighed under 130 pounds. He has said in interviews since that he was preparing to die. The comeback was slow, and he never pretended otherwise. He landed a radio DJ job in Philadelphia in 1986 that he held on to. He got arrested in 1,991 inches Daytona Beach in an incident involving a transgender sex worker that ended with assault and robbery charges. He pleaded no contest and served probation. He got famous all over again as the most candid burnout in Hollywood, an identity he leaned into without flinching.
We're having a slight family dispute.
All because Laurie's girlfriend is trying out for the varsity basketball team.
The 2005 VH1 reality show Breaking Bonaduce documented his alcoholism and marital crisis in such unflinching detail that critics called it almost too painful to watch. He stayed on the air the entire time. In March 2023, after almost a year of mysterious symptoms, slurred speech, lost balance, and inability to climb his own stairs, Bonaduce was diagnosed with hydrocephalus, a neurological condition involving fluid buildup in the brain. On the 5th of June, 2023, surgeons inserted a shunt into his skull to drain the fluid. He went home within days and returned to his Seattle morning radio show after recovery. In 2024, he became a public advocate for the Hydrocephalus Association, the first famous American to put a face to a condition that affects an estimated 800,000 older adults. When David Cassidy died in November 2017, Bonaduce gave one of the most emotional interviews of the entire press cycle. He had spent the last week of Cassidy's life at the hospital, holding his hand. He has said publicly that he was effectively raised by Cassidy on the set of the show. When Suzanne Croof died in 2015, his line to People magazine was the one that landed, "Everyone thought I'd be the first Partridge to go." In 2026, Danny Bonaduce is 66 years old. He has been married to his third wife, Amy, since 2010. He is sober. He has been continuously employed in radio for nearly 40 years, longer than almost anyone else on this list has done anything. The kid in the back of the bus survived everything that was supposed to kill him. The wildest child of the 1970s turned out to be the most reliable adult of the 2020s. Number 4. Suzanne Croof as Tracy Partridge. Suzanne Croof was 7 years old when she was cast as Tracy Partridge, the youngest of the 5 musical siblings. She was the only cast member too young to remember life before the show. She had been doing commercials since age 4. Her first credit at 4 was for a Barbie doll. She filmed the pilot at 6 and the series wrapped when she was 11. Then she walked away. She did Mulligan's Stew for NBC in 1977, a quiet family drama that lasted 7 episodes. Her last credited on-screen role was the 1,980 TV movie Children of Divorce. She was 17 years old. She never acted again. She married Bill Condrey in July 1985 at 22 and stayed married to him for the rest of her life. They moved to the desert. She graduated from Los Angeles Pierce College. She owned and operated a small bookstore until 1993 and then worked as a manager at an Office Max in Laughlin, Nevada, a small Colorado River casino town across the state line from Arizona. She had 2 daughters, Samantha and Alexandra. She showed up to almost no Partridge Family reunions. In 2010, she appeared on The Today Show with several of her former co-stars and explained, calmly and without apology, that she had been working in retail management for years. The interviewer struggled to understand. She did not. On the morning of the 27th of April 2015, a Monday, Suzanne Croof collapsed at her home in Laughlin. Paramedics could not revive her.
Good. What did you want to tell me?
Tell you.
The Clark County coroner later identified the cause of death as arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia, a rare hereditary heart condition that affects roughly 1 in 5,000 people, where the muscle of the right ventricle is slowly replaced by fat and scar tissue. The first symptom is often sudden cardiac arrest. There is frequently no warning at all. Her family had no idea she had it. She had been healthy. She was 52. She and Bill had been planning to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary that July. The cast tributes were immediate and almost uniformly heartbroken. Shirley Jones, who had played her mother 45 years earlier, said publicly that Suzanne had been the sweetest of all the children. David Cassidy, already in decline, 20 months before his own death, recorded a tearful interview about her. The detail that hurt most was that almost nobody outside the family had known her once she stepped off the bus. She had built a small, intentional, completely private life. And it had ended without warning on a normal Monday morning in a small Nevada desert town. In 2026, Suzanne Croof has been gone for 11 years. She would have been 63 years old. Her daughters are adults. Her granddaughter, Evelina, 1 year old when Suzanne died, is 12. She had stopped being a star 40 years before she died, and the world remembered her anyway. Number 5. David Cassidy as Keith Partridge. This is the story that changes the way you watch the Partridge Family forever. David Bruce Cassidy was born in New York City on the 12th of April, 1950. His father, Jack Cassidy, was a Broadway actor with a glittering voice and a fatal drinking problem who walked out on the family when David was 5. His mother, the actress Evelyn Ward, slowly developed dementia as David grew up. His grandfather had died of the same disease. When David was 19, his father remarried to the singer Shirley Jones, whose Best Supporting Actress Oscar was already sitting on her mantelpiece, and David inherited a stepmother who, 6 months later, was unexpectedly cast as his on-screen mother on a new ABC sitcom. What happened in the 4 years that followed has not been matched in television history. The Partridge Family aired from September 1970 to March 1974. David Cassidy was the lead singer of the fictional band, which became a real recording act which sold over 25 million records. He became the highest-paid solo performer in the world during 1972. He earned, in certain weeks, more than the President of the United States made in a year. At his concert at Madison Square Garden in March 1972, 20,000 girls screamed continuously for an hour and a half. He was 21 years old. A 4-year-old fan named Bernadette Whelan was killed in a fan crush at his concert at White City Stadium in London in May 1974. He flew home and effectively stopped touring. When the show ended in 1974, he tried to step away from the teen idol image and could not. The albums slowed. The arena dates shrank into clubs. He made it onto Broadway in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat in the 1980s. He married 3 times Kay Lenz, Meryl Tanz, and Sue Schifrin, and divorced all 3. He had 2 children, a son, Beau, with Sue, and a daughter, Katie, from a brief earlier relationship with model Sherry Williams. Katie grew up estranged from him and built her own career as an actress on Arrow.
I love those kids.
Sure you do.
Wire to go on.
By the 2010s, the drinking had taken over. A DUI in Florida in 2010, a DUI in upstate New York in 2013, a DUI in Los Angeles in 2014. He filed for bankruptcy in 2015. In February 2017, he announced from a Las Vegas stage that he had been diagnosed with dementia, the disease that had taken his mother and his grandfather. He was 66 years old. He performed 2 more concerts. In Agora Hills, California, he forgot the lyrics, walked to the edge of the stage, and fell off it into the crowd. He stopped touring shortly after. On the 21st of November 2017, David Cassidy died at a hospital in Fort Lauderdale. The immediate cause was multiple organ failure, with his liver going first. He had been waiting for a liver transplant that never arrived. Shortly before he died, he was conscious enough to speak to his daughter, Katie, who had flown to his bedside. The words she shared publicly 3 days later on her Twitter account on the 24th of November 2017 were these: "So much wasted time." He was 67 years old. The family said afterwards that they had come to believe his cognitive decline had been driven more by long-term alcohol damage than by the inherited dementia he had announced on stage. The teen idol who had earned more than the President of the United States in 1972 had died regretting his life out loud, attended by a daughter he had barely raised. He sold more records by his 22nd birthday than most performers do in a lifetime, and the last thing he said was that he had wasted his time. The Partridge Family premiered on ABC on the 25th of September, 1970, and ran for 4 seasons and 96 episodes. The fictional band sold over 25 million records as a real recording act. The show ended in March 1974. The bus, a 1957 Chevrolet school bus, repainted in a Mondrian-inspired pattern, was eventually sold and is now privately owned. The series was never rebooted. The cast has not been together in the same room since the early 1990s. 2 of them are gone. 1 has not spoken in public for over 20 years. 3 are still here. One of them won an Oscar at 27 and is still working at 91. One of them stepped off the most photographed teenage face in America and built a private life that no journalist has been able to crack since 2004. One of them survived every drug, every arrest, and every public collapse the 1980s could throw at him, and is on the radio in Seattle every weekday morning. One of them quit Hollywood before she was old enough to vote, spent 30 years quietly behind the counter of a desert town office supply store, and was gone at 52 between one breath and the next. And one of them, the one whose face was on every bedroom wall in America in 1972, died at 67 inches, a Florida hospital, attended by a daughter he had barely known, whispering the words, "So much wasted time." The bus is empty. The music kept playing for a while longer.